What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined by my co-host, Colin Alcabes and Will Cohen. Today, we're here to do just a general discussion about the New York Rangers. At this current point in time, November 26th, 2023, the Rangers are ranked number one in the entire NHL. They got to that point yesterday with a beautiful regulation win, a dominant win over the league-leading Boston Bruins. That elevated the Rangers up to number one. We thought it was only going to last for a few hours because Vegas was set to take on Arizona, but Arizona really came through for the Rangers yesterday and shut out the Golden Knights. So the Rangers have at least today one more day minimum of being the number one team in the league. The Rangers can extend their points up to even higher and kind of get more of a grip on that first overall spot tomorrow night. But until then, I really do just want to dive into this team, what's been going right so far, how we got to this point, 19 games deep into the season, almost a quarter of the way through. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts down on the Rangers season so far down in the comment section below. And be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on both Instagram and X. But before we really get into things, Colin, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm good. Watching that game last night was probably one of the. In the beginning, it was very stressful, or I guess I should say yesterday afternoon. In the beginning, it was a little stressful, but glad to see them get the dub. Now just having a lazy Sunday, watching some football, vibing at the top of the league. Feelings are high. I'm super excited for what we got in store for the rest of the season.
Of course. And, yesterday's game, it was an interesting one. I wasn't able to watch because I was at work, but I know I was strategically timing my breaks so I could catch some parts of the game. I looked right at the start, saw we were up 2-0 early, and I was like, let's go team. Then about an hour later, I looked again, and it was 2-2, and I was like, oh, well, that's not good. And then, I had my lunch break, but I purposely worked a little longer so I'd be able to listen to the game on the radio in my car on my lunch. And next thing you know, it was like 7-4. I got to hear the Panarin goal on radio. I didn't get to hear the Bonino call from Sam Rosen, but I was able to listen to parts of it. Will, I just want to ask you, how are you doing? What were your thoughts on yesterday's game?
I wasn't able to watch either, but I listened. I was at the Coastal Carolina game. I was filming that. JMU is going to a bowl game, and the Rangers are on top of the league. I'm pretty ecstatic, besides the New York Giants not being good and ruining their tank and not getting a quarterback. But the game yesterday, obviously, they went up 2-0. Bruins tied it at 2. Rangers scored late on a shorthanded goal by Chris Kreider. Then Pasta tied it, and then they just completely dominated them after that. And it really just shows us that how different this team is from last year, because if it was last year, if the game was tied at 2-2, once it was tied, the Rangers would have turtled and they probably would have lost 7-4 instead of winning. So this team is immaculate. That's all I got to say.
I mean, the team is immaculate, and you just look at the offense, right? Yesterday, the 7 goals the Rangers put up was their season high, and I wasn't expecting that at all. Two very defensive teams, the Rangers and the Bruins. I didn't really expect that game would become kind of like a barn burner. Like goalies just, I don't want to say weren't doing anything because Quick obviously played great, but the amount of goals that were scored, I wasn't expecting. And I think, Will, how many different point scorers were there yesterday? I think it was 13 or something like that.
It was all but 5 players scored.
Yeah,
I know
13 different goal scores and 5 didn't. So Colin, because Colin brought that up yesterday. I was shocked about that.
I know it's a pretty incredible stat. But on the subject of offense, Panarin had that incredible point streak earlier this season. That unfortunately came to an end. He went a couple of games without scoring a point, but he's right back into it. I know Lafreniere was one of the people who didn't score yesterday. Same with Capo Caco and Blake Wheeler, I believe. But Zibanejad was getting in on the 5v5 action. So was Kreider. So I don't know. The offense does seem to be buzzing a little bit.
They look good. I think you look at a game like yesterday, the Bruins have allowed like a league leading amount of goals in the second, where they're like the fewest amount of goals in the second, and the Rangers were able to pot 2 pretty quickly towards the end of the period. And if you look, obviously you love to see the shorthanded goals and the shorthanded play clicking and firing on all cylinders. They went, I think, what was it? The Flyers went 0 for 6 or 0 for 5 against us the day prior. And they were doing a good job. Obviously, the Bruins are going to get on the board. They're a high-octane team. But to be able to see us score on their power play, it's always a welcome thought. And my biggest takeaway from yesterday is just looking at the game, seeing all 4 lines contributing is huge. I think that the second line for a majority of the season, I think we can all agree, has pretty much carried. pretty heavily. And I think, they took a little bit of a backseat last night. They're like, all right, you guys got this. I think that was low-key one of their not as great games, and it was still a fantastic game for them. But it's great to see the other guys pick up the slack when they falter a little bit, because you need that depth scoring. It's huge, especially down the line. So it's great to see it happening earlier this season. VC's, I believe, on a little bit of a point streak, or maybe there was a break in between, but he's got a couple goals in the last couple games. Bonino and Pitlick getting there first. And I thought yesterday, we were talking about before, was one of Pitlick's best games in terms of forechecking. And every time that fourth line was out there, they were constantly in the zone. Just the pressure was nonstop. And with a team like the Bruins, it's what it's going to take to wear them down. I think that after that Stars game, I was a little worried because I was like, hey, like, this is our real test. Like, this is a top 5 team. I know we played the Canucks early in the season, but, like, they weren't, like, at the level that they're at now, I feel like. I feel like this was, like, wow, a wake-up call. The Bruins have 15 regulation losses, I believe, in the last calendar year. So if that doesn't get you excited, I don't know what does. I mean, it's just a very complete game. And, yeah, it stinks that they got 4 goals, but I think that they're a high-octane team. They're pretty deep as well. And there's a reason they only have 14 regulation losses in the last calendar year, and it's because they are that good. And I think Quick played out of his mind. I think that there was a couple lapses, as there are going to be in some games, but I think overall it was a very strong game.
Yeah, and I think when you just look at this team compared to last year, the Rangers really struck gold in the offseason this year, with Bonino, Pitlick, even Jonathan Quick, where like last year we went out of our way to get all these superstars like Kane and Tarasenko that kind of just like disrupted the chemistry that we had going on. But meanwhile, these new guys, I don't really want to say Quick because he's just a goalie. I'm speaking like defensemen, forwards. You can even include Gustafsson in here. They kind of complement what the Rangers already have going on, where last season we relied too heavily on the star power and the offensive scoring. But this year we already have that from our pieces that are coming back as returning players. And then you have the Gustafsson, Bonino, Pitlick, where they kind of just contribute to that depth. Gustafsson especially stepping up into that major role with Adam Fox being out as long as he is. He's looked incredible. In my opinion, the best signing. I would say Quick is the best signing, but he doesn't play as much as Gustafsson does. So we've had a little bit more of a sample size to see Gustafsson play. But I don't know, especially Bonino. Will, I know you love Bonino, so I might just hand this one off to you.
Yeah, Nick Bonino has been great this year. I mean, obviously he scored his, I don't know when he scored his first point. Might have been against in the Devils game, I think it was, on that Capo Caco goal. Yeah, it was against the Devils, and then obviously he had to go, or he scored his first point against the Devils' first goal yesterday. But obviously, he's not a 3C. Oh, he can play that role, but he's not going to put up points. He has blocked so many shots, and I found, I did some research myself, and he has 46, or against the Flyers, I obviously didn't see it I didn't check yesterday how many block shots he had, but going after the game against the Flyers, he had 46 block shots, which was 17 more than for forwards. 46 block shots amongst forwards, which is the most amongst forwards, obviously, which is 17 more than Eli Tolvanen. I don't know how many Tolvanen has now or how many Bonino has now, but after that Flyers game, he had a block shot streak of 4 games, and in those 4 games had 9 block shots. I mean, he is just doing everything right. He's great on the PK. He's doing a lot in the offensive zone. He's doing a lot in the defensive zone, and his presence. I mean, he honestly, I know Gustafsson's probably the most underrated signing, but you could make a case for Bonino. I mean, he has been great, and this fourth line, and obviously now he's on the third line, but this fourth line has been so much better than it was last year, and this team is just a lot more complete than it was last year. And they're like, obviously, we had so many holes where we had to trade for Tarasenko, who I loved, and I won't talk bad about him, and then Patrick Kane, which wasn't, the greatest trade ever. But right now you probably don't need to do that. Like, maybe you need to trade for a first line right winger but Blake Wheeler right now is doing really good. So is there really a need to right now? No. I mean, he has 6 points now, 2 goals and 4 assists after having none in his first however many games. Like, this team is just so complete, and they're playing great. And it's not even that they're getting lucky either. They're just playing good, sound hockey, and it's really just a breath of fresh air from the last 2 years. It's really great to see them playing this style of hockey.
Yeah, and people will say the same thing about Capo Caco, where it's like kind of like what you mentioned with Blake Wheeler, where he could be traded or moved to clear up cap space for someone who's going to produce more. But people come after us in the comments all the time, like saying like we don't even watch the games or anything. But I'm very firm on this standpoint that Kako hasn't looked bad. Is he producing points? No, not at all. But he's doing other things on the ice that are helping the Rangers win. And yeah, when the deadline comes around, could the Rangers maybe look to move someone for a little bit more depth? Yeah, but at this point in time, when you're winning like the Rangers have been, why are you trying to change anything? Both offense and defense, people coming out of everywhere calling players out, but like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Would I like to see Kako score more points? Yeah, but I'm not gonna be angry with what's going on because like the whole point of this video, the Rangers are currently the best team in the NHL. So even Blake Wheeler, me and you will all season long, we've been like kind of critical of him. Some of it was serious, most of it was sarcasm. But like at the end of the day, I'm gonna hate on Blake Wheeler because that's my thing nowadays. But I can't deny the fact that it's working. Kreider, Zibanejad, and Wheeler, that first line. Wheeler started producing points. Zibanejad and Kreider weren't playing that good at 5v5, but now they are. So again, I'm not going to put someone else on that first line because if it's working, I don't want to kind of ruin that. So I think the biggest thing also is that the Rangers are doing all this without Adam Fox and without Philip Hedl. So imagine what's going to happen when they come back from injury. It'd be kind of scary to see how good we are.
Yeah, I know we're lucky. Oh, my bad, Will.
No, you can go, Colin.
All right. I was going to say we're lucky in the fact that Gustafsson was able to slide up so seamlessly and almost like replace Adam Fox's production. He fits very well with Lindgren. And so I think it should be the same thing to just put it back to what it was. And I think everything should return to normal. I don't think there's going to be any hiccups there. I'm a little worried with Hedl coming back if that will mess up how the forwards are jiving right now because like you said, I don't really necessarily want to change anything, but at the same time, you want to get him out there. I mean, he's a good player, but like who gets bumped down, who gets bumped out? I like the way that our lines are working as a whole. I think our fourth line is one of the best that we've had since the early 2010s. And I think that third line is also getting a lot of zone time. I think Cooley looks really good with who's the center on that line? I can't recall. Yeah, so it's Cooley, Bonino, and Kaka, and I think they look good every time that they're out there, and they're doing a good job of preventing opportunities against and also creating turnovers and getting that zone time. So I don't know if I want to necessarily, change that up, but I don't want to keep Hedl out of the lineup. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
See, I really would hate taking Pitlick out because he looks really good, and I do really like Pitlick. He has really grown on me. I mean, obviously, I didn't really care for him much, but he's a very good fourth line forward. And he's kind of like Tyler Mott, where he's going to produce a little bit of offense, not a lot, but he will produce a little bit of offense, and he's fast. But if you look, like Hedl's a play driving center, and I really think he'll help that third line with Cooley and Kako take off more than Bonino will, because obviously Bonino's more of a defensive forward. He's a defensive center. So I really hate to do this, but I would take Pitlick out of the lineup. Or what you could do is, and I hate doing this too because I think it really messes with the player's confidence or just a player in general, you scratch one of Jimmy Vesey and Pitlick every other night. So you you flip-flop them, or like have one guy play 2 games scratch, 2 games scratch, which I really do not like at all. Like that sucks. But I mean, Hedl could really have the Rangers, him coming back, he could really have the Rangers having 3 scoring lines instead of obviously just 2.
Yeah. And the idea of a Cooley, Hedl, Kako line on the third line, it sounds nice. And, we haven't gotten to see it yet because Kako only got demoted to the third line after Hedl got injured. But it kind of just sounds like the kid line 2.0, but except with a Lafreniere who isn't scoring points and doing anything on the ice. It's going to be like a Will Cooley's going to beat someone up for you type of line while the other kids hopefully produce points, because, Lafreniere has moved on to bigger and better things in the top 6. He's been incredible. We could probably talk about him for like a whole 20 minutes on this episode as well and what he's been doing. But I don't know, just the the Cooley, Hedel, Kako line, it sounds awesome in theory, and I would really love to see it. I kind of agree with you, Will, where Bonino, he's more of like a defensive centerman who would probably be better down on the fourth line. But then, it's the whole problem with Pitlick and VC. They're both playing good. Me personally, I would probably lean towards keeping VC in the lineup. And it's nothing against Pitlick. It's just I've seen a lot more of Jimmy VC throughout the years, and I'm attached to him. I like him a lot. But in a perfect world, the Rangers would be able to somehow, some way, just trade Barclay Goodrow away for like an 8th round draft pick, something like a -$2 bill. I don't care.
I was just gonna say that. Literally, I was just gonna say that when you were done.
I know, because that's like the one piece that I feel like is messing up this team. And in recent games, Goudreau hasn't even been horrible. I feel like, he still takes a lot of stupid penalties. He doesn't produce points, but he hasn't like actively been.
He's been blocking a lot of shots.
Yeah, like
he hasn't been like a black hole like he normally is. He's been out there and doing good things defensively. I agree with that. But in my ideal world, I'd like to get him off the team, especially at his cap hit, and then bring up those other guys. But it's a blessing and a curse being this deep. We're very deep, and we're lucky in the fact that, like, God forbid somebody goes down like they did, we were able to have that next man up mentality, and people were just stepped in, and we didn't miss a beat. But now with everybody coming back and being healthy, it's like, who's the odd man out? Because everybody's played so well. It's like you don't want to punish anybody and put them down, but you can't carry everybody.
Yeah, and like, again, we're only 19 games deep, so like just under a quarter of the way through the season. So there is still a lot of time to figure out like what Laviolette likes, what works, what doesn't work. But at a certain point, like Will, you brought up the idea of like flip-flopping VC and Pitlick, and I like that idea for now. But at a certain point, you're going to have to like finalize that lineup, and you're going to have to rock with something and start building up chemistry heading towards the playoffs, because again, the Rangers haven't clinched a playoff spot just yet, but I think there's some crazy statistic where it's like 70-something% of teams that hold the playoff spot on Thanksgiving make the playoffs. So the odds and the statistics are technically in the Rangers' favor. So don't tell me I'm jinxing anything right here. But I don't know. Just moving deeper into the season, you do want to start to build that chemistry, which I think we have had a little bit of. But once Hedel comes back, like you said, Colin, it is going to shift things around. That's kind of why I like the top 6. I like Trocheck in the top 6. I don't want to touch that. He's been doing good. I think Hedel would be good on the 3rd line. Bonino would be better fit on the 4th. In a perfect world, Goudreau will just go away. Maybe he'll have another kid, and he'll take an extended leave of absence this time, because I like VC and I like Pitlick a lot more than I like Barclay Goudreau. But that's just my opinion on the matter.
Well, I also like the fact that they're both on league minimum deals. It makes it a lot more palpable to put them in the lineup when, like, I have no problem paying a defensive guy, but like I'm not going to pay him. What is he making? 3.6?
3.6 million.
That's
a lot. That's a lot for a defensive guy when we're getting the same bang for your buck with Pitlick, with Goudreau, with or Pitlick or VC or Bonino, or hell, I mean, even Cooley does a pretty good job of getting in there in the defensive game and shutting people down and just pinning people up against the boards, things like that. So, like, to pay that much, you're paying triple. You could get 3 Pitlicks. You get 3 VCs. Like, it's just absurd to me. Almost 4.
Yeah. Speaking of players who cost a lot of money, I want to quickly shift over to the defense and discuss Jacob Trouba, because I know his contract is a lot of money. I don't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, but I know it's a lot. He's making like $8 million.
Yeah, $8 million flat.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, and I don't think he's lived up to that contract. But I do want to say that this year I'm seeing a whole new side of Trouba. I've said this a couple of times. Last year, me and Tony, very, very critical of Trouba. His first season as captain, I wanted more, and we didn't get it. But this year, I love Jacob Trouba. He's awesome. He's laying people out. He's making controversial plays, which I do just want to give my official standpoint on that, because, I'm assuming people know what I'm talking about. But during yesterday's game against Boston, Jacob Trouba had a stick hold by Trent Frederick, and he tried to pull it to break free, and he just somehow, some way happened to clock him on the side of the head with his stick. And he was fined for it. I'm honestly surprised he didn't get suspended. Players have gotten suspended for less. I just think as a fan, I'm happy that he didn't get suspended, because, he's a very integral part of this Rangers team. But it was a reckless play. I don't think it was intentional. It was definitely unintentional, but it was still reckless. And hopefully moving forward, Trouba can be a little less negligent when he's waving a stick around with two hands on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he should have been suspended for at least a game. Like, I know there was no intent to it, but it's reckless and it could have caused a lot more damage than it did. I know him and Frederick were going at it, and I think Trouba was trying to go for his leg, but either way, it's a dangerous play. Obviously, like I said, there's no intent, but it was it was just reckless, and it should have been a 1-game suspension. But I'm very glad he didn't get a suspension because he's been good. And he has 1 goal and 7 assists for 8 points in the first 19 games, which is very good for his very good for him. That's exceeding expectations. And in the first 19 games last year, he had 5 points. Like, he's doing a lot more this year. He's blocking a lot more shots. He's taking a lot more hits. He's overall been a lot better. So him getting suspended for at least a game, I mean, I know it's just 1, but that would have been bad for the Rangers.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Will. I thought there was a suspension coming just because of, he's a little bit of a controversial player with this. I think most of his hits are clean. Obviously, there's a couple that are on the fence. But he is a tad of a repeat customer. And even though it was an accident, like, I don't think he intended to whack on Frederick with the stick. I think that there does have to be some sort of repercussion. So I think like 1 to 2 games would probably be what I would want doled out if it was somebody doing it to the Rangers. But I'm happy he's not. I think he's really stepped it up this year. Obviously, $8 million, it's a big price tag to live up to. But I think, we don't even, obviously when we signed him, it was for, power play quarterback, defensive shutdown guy. And while he might not have turned into that player that we all expect him to be, he's been the definition of shutdown this year. Last year, you put him out there, I'm a little bit concerned, dying minutes. Who do I want out there? I probably want Fox and Lindgren. This year, I'm okay with Miller and Trouba too, because they both have taken another step this year. I feel like Trouba looks similar. His defense looks similar to how it did when he was with Winnipeg. Obviously, the points aren't coming, but we don't need him for the points. We got guys for the points. We got Gustafson. We got Fox, and hell, even Jones and Schneider have been making plays and doing good things with the puck. So, like I said earlier in the season, I'm all for if they want to get points, like, go ahead, but not at the sacrifice of defense. And he's been playing a great defensive game. He leads the league in block shots, which is great because you want to help out your goalies at all times. He's laying the body, he's carrying a guy with Nick Delorier's on his arm, and he still goes and trucks the crap out of somebody. It's vintage Trouba. It's the Trouba train. We better get off the tracks. I think he's looked fantastic, and $8 million is definitely hard to swallow, but he's making it more palpable with each game. And if he continues to play at this level, he's coming close to that range where I would be okay with giving him around like 6 or 7. I'm not talking on a contract extension, just like if I could rework his deal. So obviously he'll never get to that $8 million billing, but even if he gets a little bit closer, I'm okay with a little bit of an overpay as opposed to previous years. It looked like a massive overpay where, like, at most I probably would have given him $4 or $5 million.
Yeah, I think you're right. There has been significant improvement from Trouba. He'll never reach the $8 million mark. I hope he does. If he's out here just becoming like the next Bobby Orr, that'd make me very happy. And I'd be willing to give him maybe a couple more dollars for that. But someone who I think has kind of underwhelmed me a little bit, which is going to be the most selfish thing I ever say as a Rangers fan, is Igor Shesterkin. Just because, you look at his stats so far this year, he's played in 11 games and he has 8 wins. So that's pretty incredible right there. Now, the following stats aren't bad whatsoever. He has a 2.45 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. Now, to any other goaltender in the league, fans would be cheering and clapping for their goalie doing that. But to us, it's Igor Shesterkin, career-wise, 2.38 goals against and a save percentage of .923. With 107 wins in 169 games. So, not to sound like an entitled Rangers fan here, but I know from my own personal viewing experience that Shesterkin can do better. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. I've seen him win a Vezina trophy. And I know it's only been 19 games into the year. He's only played in 11. So there is a whole lot of time to turn it around. But I don't know why so far. I just feel like Jonathan Quick in the 8 games he's played, I think, has just been better overall, which is I never thought once in my life I would say that heading into this year, but here I am.
I think Igor, like once the year goes on, he'll get better. I mean, these last 2 games he played, he was a little rusty, which is all right. I mean, yeah, he hasn't been playing great, but I mean, in the beginning of the year, I know he had 2 bad games against one was against the Blue Jackets, one was against the Predators. But other than that, I mean, obviously, the Devils game and the Stars game. Other than that, he's played fine in my opinion. And I think what's great about having a guy like Jonathan Quick who's hot is right now, obviously, we know Igor's probably not 100%. He's, slowly climbing up that way. He had a really good game against the Flyers, who are a hot team right now. Or maybe not hot, but they started off the year pretty good. It allows Igor, you don't have to start Igor for, like last year he played 14 games started 14 games in the first 19, and Halak only started 5, but now Igor's only started 11 and Quick started 8. You can start Quick a little bit more and let Igor get fully healthy. Like, you don't have to play him on a back-to-back against Boston, because you obviously played Quick that game, and he might not have played his best game, but he still played good and we beat them. It allows Igor to have some more time to get rested up, and I think once he's fully healthy, we'll see Igor of old again.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Oh, my bad. My apologies.
No, you go first.
I think that Igor has looked a little shaky to start. I think that Flyers game was the most confident I've seen him look pre-injury. I think that Devils game was a little shaky, and obviously the Stars game wasn't all his fault, but he had a couple miscues. But I think we're, again, blessed to be extremely deep. I know, Quick has been great to start the season. A man that I hated at one point in my life, to now I've come to love him. He's one of my favorite Rangers currently. I'm looking at getting a jersey. And even Louis Domingue came up for a game and made a start. You know what I mean? And he looked great in his one start. Another Ranger who I did not like for a short period of time a couple seasons ago. So, we're blessed to have not only one of the best goalie cores right now. I texted my friend. I said we have to be in the discussion for one of the better tandems in the league. Even one of the trios. Domingue looked great in his first start. I'm not saying give him a bunch of starts, but we're lucky to have that kind of like comfortability, and the fact that we can start any of those 3 guys against anybody and have the defense that we have and the forwards and the offense that we have kind of help them out. I think that Shesterkin will kind of get back into a groove. I think you just got to give him some time coming off an injury. He's a little shaky, but I think, like I said, against the Flyers game, he looked good. And the defense just has to make sure that we're helping him at all times, knowing that he's not at 100% yet, and allow him to get back to the level that we know he's capable of playing at.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate the fact that I'm not complaining about Shesterkin here. That'd be the last thing I ever do. It's just like, it's one of those incredible things being a Rangers fan, with just how good this team is, that still having good stats can be considered a down year, and you're still winning like almost every single game. Like, the Rangers right now is overall 15-3-1, first in the league. Obviously, that's the whole point of this. But you look at the Metropolitan Division, which it's come the complete opposite direction that I thought it was going to be. Obviously going into the season, the Hurricanes and the Devils were the favorites to win the division, while the Rangers had like a chance of staying in the race. But right now, the Rangers lead the division with 31 points. The next closest team to them is the Flyers with 23. So the Rangers have an 8-point lead over the Flyers with what is that, 2 games in hand. So, like, I don't know. If anyone told me that, I would have told you were lying. Carolina's 4th place. The Devils are at 500 in 7th place. So I don't know what happened to the other teams, but all I know is that Peter Laviolette is a genius, and Gerard Gallant, how did you have all this potential just sitting there in front of you and you did nothing with it all this time? I feel like it should be a criminal charge, and Peter Laviolette should be placed on the highest pedestal possible for what he's done to this Rangers team.
I'll say my only defense for Gallant, I know I said it in the chat yesterday, is that he didn't have the forecheckers that Bonino is one of the forecheckers that Laviolette has. He had a very me-centric team, a lot of superstars, but he didn't play a system at all. I mean, we've pretty much seen it, and he was just like, hey, go do your thing. And when it worked, it was great, and then when it didn't, he didn't change shit. So, I'm not saying that, he was the guy. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to give him any excuses. I'm just saying we also have to keep in mind at the end of the meetings last year, he said, I need more forecheckers. And I'm pretty sure he told Drury that at the deadline, and he didn't listen. And now look at us. I mean, trial by fire. Unfortunately, it was Gallant's head, but we went out, we got the forecheckers, and this is the best Rangers team that I've seen probably since like 2013, 2014.
The one thing I just want to say about Gallant is this team, just like guys on this team are like Panarin, forechecking like crazy. Lafreniere, forechecking like crazy. Like he didn't have Panarin playing like that last year. Like I don't know what changed in Panarin's game that wanted to make him play more defense. I mean, probably, last year where he was not very good in the postseason, but they're just playing a better brand of hockey, and I guess it's really just Laviolette's system that Gallant didn't have because he didn't even have a system in the first place. But like these guys are just, I don't know. They just look so much better under Laviolette. And I guess it's because he's telling them to go out there and play how you want, but also to follow a system. So I guess it's like a mixture of Gallant. It's not just like go out there, do whatever you want, no system, but it's like go out and do your thing, but also play a system. I guess that kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know. We could sit here arguing all night about Laviolette, Gallant, blah, blah, blah. All that matters is that the Rangers have been winning a lot of games so far this season, and they're currently the number one team in the NHL at the time that this video was recorded, because tomorrow night the Rangers play against the Sabres, the Bruins play against the Blue Jackets, and the Knights play against the Flames. That's the top three all playing right there. So these standings could very well be completely different within the next 24 to 48 hours from the time of this recording, but I'm sure the Rangers will keep winning no matter what. The last thing that I do want to read off is a quote from Keandre Miller. It will be posted on @Fireside Rangers on Instagram and X shortly after this video is posted. He said, I still don't think we've played our best hockey yet, which is kind of scary and fun to say at the same time. So Keandre Miller is optimistic. The fun is just beginning. The Rangers still have a lot more hockey left to play this season. So hopefully they can keep winning games and continue to stay high up in the standings in the NHL. Being at number one right now is nice, but given that whole President's Trophy curse thing, maybe we should be happy with like a second or third finish in the league, which I think it was recently broken, right? Didn't Vegas break that, or someone did?
No.
No, it's still
intact. The Bruins won it last year.
The last team to do it, I think, was the 2013 Blackhawks. The last team.
All right, so let's maybe aim for a second or third overall finish in the entire NHL.
2015 Blackhawks. My apologies. One of the Blackhawks teams, sorry.
Mm-hmm. The Rangers won the President's Trophy in 2015, by the way, right?
Yeah.
That was the year we got bounced by the Lightning in the conference finals.
It's one of the years the Blackhawks won.
It was the year before. I think it was the 2013 Blackhawks. I think you're right.
Either way, as long as the Rangers keep winning, we will be satisfied. Well, if anything, this Rangers team is so good that we'll break that President's Trophy curse. If there's any team that do it, it might as well be us. Why not us? But like I said, the Rangers do play again tomorrow. I do believe we are planning to do a pregame live stream about an hour before that game starts. So be sure to tune into that. But in general, everyone here at Fireside Rangers, we will be continuing to cover the league-leading Rangers throughout the remainder of the season. So be sure to like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification, and you can watch all of our content for the remainder of the year and years moving forward. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts on the Rangers season so far down in the comment section below, and be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram and X. And it's a good day to be a Rangers fan. I love this team. I love Artemi Panarin and his bald head. Have a good night, and
let's go Rangers.